You talking to me? Taxi Driver wasn't just a gritty psychological thriller. It was a production disaster wrapped in genius, held together by method acting madness and Hollywood's most unlikely miracle. Behind those iconic New York streets lurked casting wars, midnight inspiration from Bruce Springsteen, a 12-year-old Jodie Foster who terrified the adults around her, and a composer who died hours after delivering his masterpiece. From Robert De Niro driving actual taxis to prepare for the role to Martin Scorsese accidentally becoming the film's most disturbing character, the making of this 1976 masterpiece was stranger than the dark fantasy it portrayed. Today we're diving into 20 weird facts about Taxi Driver that reveal how close this legendary film came to never existing at all. Plus, stick around for the bonus fact that even hardcore Scorsese fans don't know about the secret inspiration behind Travis Bickle's most chilling moment. Ready to take a ride through the mean streets of movie history? Let's go. Fact number 1. The "You Talkin' to Me" line was stolen from Bruce Springsteen. The most quoted line in cinema history wasn't written by Paul Schrader. It erupted from De Niro's mind during an improvised scene, but the inspiration came from an unlikely source. Days before filming that iconic mirror sequence, De Niro attended a Bruce Springsteen concert in Greenwich Village. When audience members shouted the boss's name, Springsteen did a humble bit where he feigned surprise and asked, "You talking to me?" The phrase burned into De Niro's memory. When Scorsese's camera rolled on that paranoid taxi driver practicing his confrontations in the mirror, those 4 words became cinema gold. Schrader later admitted it was the best thing in the movie, and he didn't write it. Fact number 2, Paul Schrader never saw a movie until he was 17. The man who wrote one of cinema's darkest screenplays grew up in complete cinematic darkness. Schrader was raised by strict Calvinist parents who considered movies forbidden entertainment. His first theatrical experience was Disney's The Absent-Minded Professor in 1961, which left him very greatly disappointed. This bizarre cultural isolation shaped his perspective in unexpected ways. When Schrader finally discovered cinema in college, he consumed it with the hunger of someone making up for lost time. His outsider's eye allowed him to see the medium differently, crafting stories that felt both deeply personal and universally unsettling. Sometimes the most powerful voices come from those who stood outside looking in. Fact number 3. Jodie Foster required psychological evaluation before filming. At 12 years old, Foster was already a veteran performer with dozens of TV appearances, but Taxi Driver pushed her into uncharted territory. The producers required her to meet with California's Child Welfare Department to verify she was mature enough to handle the material. A welfare worker monitored her scenes and reviewed daily footage to ensure her psychological safety. Foster's older sister Connie served as her body double for the film's more violent and sexual moments. What's remarkable is that Foster later described this as the first time anyone asked her to create a character that wasn't herself. Even under these intense restrictions, she delivered a performance that earned her an Oscar nomination and launched her toward legendary status. Fact number 4. The real Iris was found in a hotel room at 3 a.m. Schrader's character development took a disturbing turn during pre-production. While drowning his sorrows in a New York bar late one night, Schrader picked up what he thought was just another woman. Back at his hotel, he discovered she was a prostitute, underage, and addicted to drugs. Instead of fleeing the situation, Schrader saw an opportunity. He invited Scorsese to join them for breakfast the next morning, studying this young woman named Garth, whose attention span lasted barely 20 seconds. Her fragmented speech patterns and childlike vulnerability became the foundation for rewriting Iris. It's a haunting reminder that the film's most tragic character was born from real-world tragedy that Schrader witnessed firsthand. Fact number 5. Everyone sacrificed their paychecks to make the film. Hollywood's biggest names took brutal pay cuts to bring this dark vision to life. De Niro, fresh off his Godfather Part 2 breakthrough and commanding $500,000 per film, accepted just $35,000. Schrader took the same amount despite having just sold another screenplay for 10 times that price. Sybil Shepherd worked for $35,000, and even Scorsese directed for only $65,000. The entire cast and crew salary budget totaled under $200,000 out of the film's $1.8 million total. This wasn't just financial sacrifice, it was a collective artistic gamble. Everyone involved believed in something bigger than their bank accounts, proving that sometimes the most powerful films emerge from the most desperate circumstances. Fact number 6. De Niro had already imagined this exact movie. Before Paul Schrader ever put pen to paper, De Niro was harboring a strikingly similar vision. The actor had conceived a screenplay idea about a lonely man wandering New York City with guns and dreaming of an assassination. He never developed it beyond the concept stage, but when Scorsese brought him Schrader's script, the eerie parallels were undeniable. It was as if the universe had conspired to bring the perfect actor to the perfect role through some cosmic screenwriting coincidence. De Niro didn't just play Travis Bickle. He had been channeling him for years without knowing it. Sometimes the most powerful performances happen when actors discover characters they've already been carrying inside them. Fact number 7. Bernard Herrmann died hours after completing his final score. The legendary composer who created the soundtracks for Citizen Kane, Psycho, and North by Northwest saved his most haunting work for last. Herrmann finished conducting the Taxi Driver recording sessions on the evening of December 23, 1975, retired to his hotel, and died in his sleep Christmas Eve morning at age 64. His final musical phrases captured Travis Bickle's isolated paranoia with saxophone melodies that seemed to bleed urban loneliness. The film's dedication to Herrmann carries extra weight, knowing these were literally his last creative breaths. In a movie about death and violence, the composer's own mortality became part of the production's DNA, creating a score that feels like it's emerging from the city's shadows. Fact number 8. Martin Scorsese became the film's most disturbing character by accident. George Mamoli was supposed to play the hateful passenger who describes his violent fantasies about his cheating wife. But Mamoli injured his back on another production, leaving Scorsese to step into the role himself. Suddenly, the director found himself delivering some of the film's most psychologically disturbing dialogue while sitting in the back seat of Travis's cab. Scorsese later credited De Niro as his acting coach for the scene, but the result was terrifyingly authentic. A director channeling his own darkest impulses through his character's twisted worldview. It's one of cinema's most unsettling cameos precisely because it feels so genuinely unhinged. Sometimes the most frightening performances come from people who never intended to perform at all. Fact number 9. Real garbage strikes made New York even filthier. The urban decay that defines Taxi Driver's visual atmosphere wasn't entirely artificial. New York was enduring a sanitation workers' strike during summer 1975 filming, leaving actual piles of garbage rotting on sidewalks and streets. Scorsese and cinematographer Michael Ballhaus didn't need to dress their sets with fake trash. The city provided a dystopian backdrop that perfectly matched Travis Bickle's psychological landscape. Those steaming refuse piles weren't production design, they were documentary reality. The strike created a visual metaphor that production designers couldn't have crafted more effectively, turning the entire city into a character representing moral and physical decay. Sometimes reality provides the perfect nightmare without any artistic manipulation. Fact number 10. Blood was made brown to avoid an X rating. Go ahead and like and subscribe because we're about to reveal how Scorsese outsmarted the ratings board with pure cinematic trickery. The director desaturated the color in the film's bloodiest scenes, making the blood appear more brown than red to avoid an X rating. This technical manipulation served dual purposes. It satisfied censors while creating a lurid newspaper tabloid aesthetic that perfectly matched the film's moral universe. The brown blood doesn't feel fake, it feels diseased, like the violence itself has become infected. Scorsese turned a censorship restriction into an artistic advantage, proving that limitations often force the most creative solutions. The violence feels more disturbing precisely because it doesn't look like movie violence. It looks like something real and wrong. Fact number 11. De Niro actually drove taxis to prepare for the role. Method acting reached new extremes when De Niro spent 2 weeks behind the wheel of an actual New York taxicab. The actor worked real shifts, picking up real passengers while observing the rhythm and psychology of the job. He studied how isolation warped drivers' perspectives, how the city's darkness seeped into their minds during endless night shifts. De Niro didn't just research taxi driving, he lived it, absorbing the loneliness and urban paranoia that would fuel Travis Bickle's descent into madness. Passengers had no idea they were being driven by a future cinema legend conducting the most intense character study of his career. The performance feels so authentic because it was born from genuine experience behind the wheel. Fact number 12. Sybil Shepherd was hated by everyone on set. Shepherd arrived on set carrying the baggage of Hollywood scandal and professional arrogance that poisoned her working relationships. She had squandered goodwill by leaving her husband for director Peter Bogdanovich, then starred in several commercial disasters while behaving snobbishly in Hollywood circles. Producer Julia Phillips cringed watching dailies from Los Angeles. Scorsese found himself constantly feeding Shepherd line readings like she was an amateur. De Niro's frustration translated into barely concealed hostility that actually enhanced their on-screen dynamic. The irony was perfect. Shepherd's real-life disconnect from the production mirrored Betsy's inability to understand Travis's world. Sometimes casting disasters create accidental authenticity that serves the story better than perfect harmony ever could. Fact number 13. The film almost never existed because nobody was famous enough. Before 1973, Scorsese, Schrader, and De Niro lacked the Hollywood credibility to get such dark material greenlit. Everything changed when producers Michael and Julia Phillips scored a massive hit with The Sting, which became a Best Picture Oscar winner and gave them a multi-film deal with Columbia Pictures. Their sudden industry clout provided the leverage needed to push through an uncommercial project about urban alienation and violence. Meanwhile, Scorsese and De Niro's careers were simultaneously ascending, creating perfect timing for an imperfect film. Without The Sting's success, Taxi Driver would have remained an unfilmable screenplay gathering dust in Hollywood filing cabinets. Sometimes masterpieces depend on completely unrelated commercial successes creating windows of opportunity. Fact number 14. Scorsese called it his feminist film. Despite the violence, in a surprising interpretation that shocked critics, Scorsese defended his brutal film as progressive social commentary. He told Roger Ebert that Taxi Driver was my feminist film because it takes macho to its logical conclusion. The better man is the man who can kill you. This movie shows that kind of thinking, shows the kinds of problems some men have, bouncing back and forth between their perception of women as goddesses and whores. Scorsese wasn't celebrating toxic masculinity, he was dissecting it with surgical precision. Travis Bickle represents the dangerous endpoint of misogynistic thinking, where women become either untouchable angels or disposable objects. The film's unflinching examination of male violence served as a warning rather than glorification, making it a feminist statement disguised as masculine rage. Fact number 15. Foster's welfare supervisor controlled every dirty word. Child protection on set reached obsessive levels that bordered on the absurd. Foster's welfare supervisor saw the daily rushes of all my scenes and made sure I wasn't on the set when Robert De Niro said a dirty word. The 12-year-old actress found herself at the center of a production where adults tiptoed around language while discussing the most adult themes imaginable. Foster later revealed that directors would give her instructions like asking her to pull down De Niro's zipper, creating awkward moments where everyone felt uncomfortable except the child actress herself. The irony was striking. Foster displayed more maturity than the adults protecting her, approaching disturbing material with professional confidence, while her guardians struggled with basic vocabulary. Sometimes the youngest person on set possesses the strongest emotional foundation. Fact number 16. The street shootout was choreographed like a ballet of death. The film's climactic violence wasn't random chaos, but precisely orchestrated brutality. Scorsese and stunt coordinators spent weeks mapping every gunshot, blood spurt, and body fall like a macabre dance sequence. The brothel massacre unfolds with mathematical precision. Each bullet hit triggers specific physical reactions that build toward Travis's psychological breakdown. Scorsese studied crime scene photographs and police reports to ensure the violence felt clinical rather than cinematic. The result was choreography that disturbed audiences precisely because it lacked Hollywood glamour. Real violence isn't beautiful or heroic. It's mechanical and ugly. The film's power comes from stripping away action movie mythology to reveal the stark brutality underneath. Fact number 17. Real NYC locations were too dangerous for night shooting. New York in 1975 was genuinely lawless, forcing production compromises that ironically enhanced the film's authenticity. Many sequences planned for actual dangerous neighborhoods had to be relocated or heavily protected by off-duty police officers. The crew carried weapons for protection while filming in areas where muggers regularly targeted film equipment. Times Square's neon-lit decay provided the perfect backdrop, but production assistants needed armed escorts just to move gear between setups. This wasn't movie set cosplay. It was filmmaking in a genuinely hostile urban environment. The paranoia that Travis Bickle feels about the city's dangers was shared by everyone making the movie, creating an atmosphere where fiction and reality became indistinguishable. Fact number 18. Harvey Keitel's pimp character was based on real research. Keitel didn't just play Sport the Pimp, he studied the psychology and mannerisms of actual predators. The actor spent time observing how real pimps manipulated vulnerable young women, learning their speech patterns and psychological tactics. His portrayal captures the casual cruelty and emotional manipulation that makes such exploitation possible. Keitel avoided cartoon villainy by understanding Sport as a human predator rather than a movie monster. The performance disturbs audiences because it feels authentic rather than theatrical. Sport's moments of seeming kindness toward Iris become more sinister when viewed through the lens of real predatory behavior. Keitel's commitment to psychological accuracy created a character who represents genuine evil rather than Hollywood's sanitized version of it. Fact number 19. The production designer used real decay as art direction. Production designer Charles Rosen faced an unusual challenge, making 1970s New York look even grimmer than it already was. Instead of fighting the city's natural deterioration, he embraced it as ready-made atmosphere. Peeling paint, broken windows, and urban blight became intentional design elements that required no artificial enhancement. The production budget was so tight that actual decay often looked better than anything they could afford to build. Rosen's genius lay in recognizing that authentic urban rot created more powerful imagery than expensive movie sets. The film's visual power comes from this marriage between documentary reality and artistic vision, where the city itself became the most important character. Fact number 20. Travis Bickle's Mohawk-inspired real-world violence. The character's transformation into a Mohawk-wearing vigilante had consequences that extended far beyond cinema screens. Travis's distinctive haircut became a symbol adopted by actual violent extremists and wannabe vigilantes across America. Police departments reported copycat incidents where disturbed individuals cited the film as inspiration for planned attacks. The character's appeal to society's most dangerous elements revealed the thin line between artistic expression and real-world influence. Scorsese never intended to create a hero, but some viewers missed the cautionary message entirely. The film's power to inspire both artistic admiration and genuine concern demonstrates cinema's dangerous ability to blur the boundaries between fantasy and reality. Bonus fact: the movie's enigmatic ending, where Travis drives away from Betsy after their chance encounter, contains a hidden production secret. Scorsese filmed the sequence in reverse chronological order, with the final shots actually being the first ones captured. This unconventional approach allowed De Niro to gradually work backward through Travis's psychological state, ending his performance at the character's most vulnerable moment rather than his most violent. The technique created subtle performance layers that audiences sense without understanding, giving the ending its unsettling ambiguity. Even the film's conclusion was built on deception and misdirection, perfectly matching Travis Bickle's own fractured relationship with reality. Taxi Driver emerged from the collision between artistic vision and urban decay, creating a masterpiece that continues to disturb audiences nearly 50 years later. What began as an unfilmable screenplay about isolation and violence became a prophetic warning about America's capacity for self-destruction. The film's production chaos mirrored its character's psychological breakdown, proving that sometimes the greatest art emerges from the most dangerous circumstances. Hit that like button if you're ready to explore more shocking movie secrets, and subscribe for weekly deep dives into cinema's darkest corners. Remember, in the world of filmmaking, everyone's talking to someone, but nobody's really listening. You talking to me? You subscribing to me?